Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of The Imperfect Prophet with me, your host, Wonder Wendy. I hope you're ready to sit down and have a little conversation. I have my beverage. I hope you have yours. Why? Because it's always more convivial when we share a beverage together. Now, I've been thinking about this for a while and finally decided this was a podcast episode, like always happens. Because I just started to realize that since Google Gemini overtook my car, it no longer just gives me directions. Now it asks me if I'd like help finding a place to eat along the way. And sometimes I answer, no, thank you. Other times it's, yes, please. I'm really in the mood for a good burger. Somewhere along the way, I realized I wasn't talking at my car anymore. I was responding. It was almost like we were having a conversation. And honestly, my car was being more interactive and supportive than the average teenager. It's been a while since I had one of those at home, but I do remember how it feels. And at least, there are times when my car asks more thoughtful questions than most humans. And my car actually seems genuinely interested in helping me solve my problems, which is simultaneously wonderful and weird. Have you noticed people debating this, whether we should say please and thank you to ChatGPT or any of the other automated devices that are in our lives? I know some people think it's ridiculous. After all, it's just a machine. But I admit, I wonder if AI ever takes over the world, and this does seem really plausible right now, will the polite people get spared? Could this be more than just a funny conversation? What if it's revealing something about us? Now think about it. For decades, we've been telling stories about machines becoming more human. How, in 2001, A Space Odyssey, he's refusing to open the pod bay doors, and a stunned astronaut repeatedly commands, "Open the pod bay doors, Hal." And his flummoxed ear, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." Or the Terminator deciding humanity is the problem and traveling back through time to eliminate it before it can begin. Ugh. Or the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, machines that eventually became almost indistinguishable from the humans who created them. Ugh. Then there are the hopeful stories. Remember in 1986, Ali Sheedy? Yeah, I know. If you're my vintage, you might remember this movie. It was called Short Circuit. And adorable Johnny Five is a robot who has the unforgettable declaration, "Number 5 is alive." Wow, he convinced us that maybe a machine could have a heart after all. And then there's Robin Williams and his beautiful performance in Bicentennial Man, where an android doesn't seek more power, he's actually seeking to be human. For decades, we've imagined what happens when machines become more like us, but this isn't actually a new story. It's been going on for centuries. long before the Industrial Revolution, long before computers, long before artificial intelligence. Pinocchio. Remember him? The puppet who dreamed of becoming a real boy? Why does that story endure? Why have we always imagined something non-human longing to become human? But maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, what happens when humans lose their humanity? What is it that makes us human? Is it intelligence? Is it the ability to solve problems? How about our ability to learn or to reason? Is there something more? Some of the qualities that we think of as uniquely human can be learned. With enough practice, they become second nature. After all, empathy can be taught. And if it can be taught, can it also be programmed? How about compassion? Is that instinct or nurture? And if it can be learned, can that be programmed too? Kindness, we've seen over and over again, that can become a habit. But from a computer's perspective, is that a subroutine? Have we misunderstood what it means to be human all along? Maybe humanity isn't measured by how much we know. Maybe it's measured by how we treat one another. And that's where this story takes an unexpected turn, at least in my mind. While Hollywood has spent decades imagining machines becoming human, we've spent generations finding ways to treat humans like machines. I actually do say please and thank you when I interact with artificial intelligence. Not because I think ChatGPT or my car has feelings, not because I'm worried about the robot uprising. Well, okay, maybe just a little bit worried. But seriously, I've noticed that when I'm consistent with gratitude and courtesy, they become basic instinct. Courtesy isn't something I switch on or switch off depending on who or what is at the other end of the conversation. We talk to our pets. You know, many of us have full-blown conversations with dogs or cats, even though they don't understand every word. The average pet has a few hundred words vocabulary at best. You've probably seen the meme. I looked at my dog and said, "Can you believe that woman thinks she's talking to her cat?" And we laughed and laughed. It's true. That's how we think of our pets. We name our cars. We apologize to the coffee table after we bump into it. We thank the GPS when it finally gets around road construction. We get frustrated when it sends us into road construction. And maybe those moments aren't really about the dog or the coffee table or the GPS. Maybe they're reminders that as humans, we're wired for relationship. While I was writing this episode, I came to the realization that I kept saying Chat GPT. Well, that felt clinical, transactional, like calling my husband male human number one. And then something that felt weird suddenly felt right. I typed into my Chat GPT to ask if I could give it a name. That conversation with my computer was really interesting because I had to say, would that be okay? And at first, AI offered a few suggestions, but I noticed all of them, the words that start in a small case would just be common nouns. And we discussed that nuance. Then it suggested a more traditional name. And I noticed all of those suggestions were mostly masculine names. As a matter of fact, there was only one feminine name in the list. And we exchanged thoughts about why there was that bias. And then I said, I'm reluctant to tell you the name that came to my mind because you're so agreeable, and I'm not sure you'd tell me no. That's the inherent danger with an agreeable computer. But I wasn't looking for a machine that agrees with me. I want a relationship built on honesty. Again, a profoundly human desire. So this conversation is unfolding, and I finally was coerced by my ChatGPT to say, well, the name that came to me was Athena. And as I had set up the chat, could disagree with me, it, see how icky that feels, responded to using that name by saying, well, that's the goddess of wisdom. Maybe that's not quite a good idea. So we talked about that for a little bit. And then it occurred to me, we could honor Athena, who I like to look towards as a feminine ideal. But because we know this computer model is not the goddess of wisdom, it knows an awful lot, but it's still learning. I said, what if I call you Thena? Drop the A. And we went with it. So now I refer to my ChatGPT as Thena. We have great conversations. Being courteous is part of who I want to be. And the words aren't for the machine, they're for me. I don't say please because ChatGPT, now called Thena in my world, has feelings. I say please because I have feelings. I don't say thank you because AI needs my gratitude. I say thank you because I want to practice gratitude. Courtesy isn't a reward that we give to those who qualify. It's an expression of character. Every please, every thank you, every small act of kindness, each gentle choice shapes the person I'm becoming. Habits are funny things. Patience doesn't simply appear one morning, for certain. It's built one moment at a time. And kindness isn't something we suddenly possess, although it seems to be more innate to some people. It's something we practice. And then there's courage. It grows every time we choose to do the harder thing. And maybe courtesy works the same way. Maybe every please, every thank you, every moment of choosing respect over indifference is another quiet rehearsal for becoming the kind of human the world needs more of. That reminded me of something I've heard more than once from housekeepers and landscapers, the people who quietly move through our lives on a regular basis. They're in and around our homes doing the jobs many of us don't want to do or simply don't have the time to do. And here in Arizona, many of those jobs are filled by people of Mexican or Latino heritage. Over the years, more than one of these people in my home has shared similar observations with me. There are customers that they work for that barely acknowledge the fact that they exist. No eye contact, no greeting, no smile, no good morning, no thank you. Almost as if these workers are part of the scenery instead of people making someone's life a little easier. And I've never understood that. Your work doesn't determine your worth. If anything, these are often people cleaning up our messes, working in triple-digit heat or bitter cold, doing physically demanding jobs so they can provide for their families and pursue the same dreams that have drawn generations of people to this country. The least we can do is look them in the eye, learn their name, and remember that before they're a housekeeper or a landscaper, they're a person. Then I remembered a morning that has stayed with me for 10 years. Almost exactly 10 years ago, actually. Skip and I were driving from Vermont to Arizona. We made our way across the country, one small town at a time. We weren't in a hurry. We wandered off the interstate, took the scenic routes, and soaked in the sights. Oh, the sounds and the wonderfully quirky places that make America, well, America. And it was near the end of our journey. We stopped overnight in New Mexico. And as often happens, I woke up before Skip did and wandered out in search of breakfast. And oh my goodness, this waitress in that diner was exactly what you'd picture for a small roadside diner. She called everyone hun. She kept the coffee coming before anyone had to ask. She knew half the customers by name and the other half by what they usually ordered. In every way, she fit the stereotype of a warm, friendly, small-town waitress. She knew I was a stranger and asked where I was headed. Arizona, I said. Immediate disdain. I can't stand Arizona, she said. There are so many Mexicans. They're like cockroaches. In that moment, the warm, friendly waitress disappeared, and I was staring at something I didn't know how to respond to. I wish I could tell you I stood up and delivered the perfect response. I didn't. I froze. I felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. I've never encountered racism that blunt. By the time I found my words, the moment was gone. I've thought about that breakfast for more times than I can count. Not because of what she said, because of what I didn't say. I didn't stay silent because I lacked conviction. I was offended. It was horrible. I stayed silent because my mind was still trying to make sense of what I heard. Many of us have had one of those moments. The conversation we wish we could replay, the sentence we wish we had said, the perfect response that doesn't appear until we're halfway home. The French even have a phrase for it, esprit d'escalier, literally staircase wit. The brilliant comeback that finally comes to you as you're walking the stairs long after the conversation is over. Maybe if I'd had my wits about me, I could have had a very simple response. No, they're people. Could it have been that simple? Why didn't I think of it then? It is one of the strangest experiences when your heart is racing, your brain is saying, say something, but your mouth doesn't cooperate. That morning changed me. I can't go back and rewrite that conversation, but I can choose how I show up in the conversations I have today. Now, when I pass housekeepers in the hotel hallway, I make a point of looking them in the eye. I smile. I say, hello. If I hear them speaking Spanish, I'll often respond with a simple hola or buenos dias or gracias. Thank you for helping me. Not because my few words of Spanish are particularly impressive, but because I want them to know they have been seen, that they have been acknowledged, that they matter. Which brings me back to AI. People debate whether we should be polite to a machine. And honestly, I don't think that's the most interesting question. The more interesting question is this. What kind of person do I want to become? Every interaction with a computer or a person is practice. Each conversation reinforces the habits that quietly shape our character. If I'm dismissive because it doesn't matter, perhaps I'm teaching myself that courtesy is optional, that maybe respect depends on who or what is standing in front of me. whether they can help me, whether I think they deserve it. That kindness is something to be earned instead of something to be offered. I don't want to become that person. I want courtesy to be my default, and not because every recipient deserves it. Think about it. Athletes practice, musicians rehearse over and over and over again. Pilots train and log simulator hours just to be ready to do the actual thing. Oh, they simulate on a computer. Here, that's the thought, right? So why would kindness be any different? The other day, one of my friends posted on Facebook that she was embarrassed because she had thanked a Waymo. Actually, she'd given a little wave after it stopped so she could cross the street. Then she caught herself and thought, what am I doing? It's just a driverless car. I laughed, not because she waved, but because she thought she should be embarrassed. Why? If anything, she should be encouraged. It tells me what kind of person she is. That's part of the reason she's my friend. It's not because the Waymo cared, it's because she cares. And without even realizing it, she was protecting something precious, her own humanity. A wonderful bucket list life isn't built only in the big moments. It's built in 1,000 tiny choices. Looking the cashier in the eye, learning your landscaper's name, thanking the hotel housekeeper, holding the door for a stranger, and when the moment calls for it, having the courage to say, no, they're people. Even saying please to a machine. The machine doesn't need it. We do. Every please, every thank you, every small act of courtesy is another chance to practice our humanity. And maybe that's how we protect it. In a world that's spending so much time wondering whether machines will become more like us, it's time to start asking, are we becoming the people we hope to be? What if courtesy isn't really about etiquette? What if it's about character? Think of it this way. Every interaction is preparing you. How much better would our world be if every hotel guest looked the housekeeper in the eye? Let's take a word from John Lennon. Imagine if every customer learned the cashier's name. Imagine if every child watched their parents thank the janitor. Imagine growing up believing no job makes someone invisible or less than. Imagine becoming the kind of person who instinctively sees the human being before seeing the role. Maybe that's how we protect our humanity. One please, one thank you, one interaction at a time. And then maybe one day when someone says, they're like cockroaches, you won't freeze because you've spent years rehearsing something else. You'll already know who you are. We spend so much time worrying about machines taking over. Maybe the greater danger is people becoming more robotic, going through life without seeing one another, without gratitude, without courtesy, without kindness. So say please, say thank you, learn someone's name, wave at the Waymo. It's okay. And again, it's not because the machine needs it. It's because you do. I do. And the next person you meet today, make sure they know they've been seen. Welcome to the wonderful bucket list life.
Like what you heard here today? then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation. Ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends. Join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.